Yamaha WR125X. Best Motorcycle Review. Excellent handling and entertaining engine, 2009 to 2017. If you are a taller rider, the Yamaha WR125X, or the WR125 are in its more off-road guise, which has a 21-inch front and 18-inch rear where the Super Moto X has 17-inch front and back, makes for an excellent 125. Thanks to its off-road styling, the XR is a roomy bike, and while on paper the tall seat height may seem intimidating for shorter riders, the reality is that soft suspension and a narrow bike negate this, and reaching the floor isn't generally a problem. Released in 2009 to replace the XT125X, which ran alongside the WR125 until 2011 while stock cleared, the XR's 4-stroke motor can generally shrug off the abuse suffered by small-capacity bikes, and as long as you keep on top of a few notable areas is reliable, frugal, and likely to start every morning, which is all you can ask of a 125. As you would expect on a 125, it's not the most high-tech of bikes, and from its single overhead cam motor to its steel frame and telescopic forks, you are talking about a bike built to a budget. However, there is nothing wrong with that as long as it has been done well, and on the Yamaha have ensured a decent level of build quality. It went off sale in 2017. Ride quality and brakes. The X is the sportier WR model, and it isn't a bad handling 125 at all. The 17-inch wheels mean you can get fairly decent rubber, and while the forks lack any adjustment, you can up the shock's preload to give a bit more support. With a seat height of 920 mm, the R is even taller at 930 mm. Shorter riders may be concerned, but most will be able to get both feel flat on the floor due to the narrowness of the bike's waist. In or out of town, the WR125X is fun to ride and nice and maneuverable, which is always handy. Although some owners find the single 2-piston caliper a bit lacking at the front, ABS was never an option. You can go a long way to remedying this through a set of higher friction pads, and the X has a bigger diameter disc than the R, 298 mm versus 240 mm, to match its on-road focus. Although it does have pillion pegs, restricted license holders are barred from taking pillions, and to be honest, the 125 does struggle to carry 2 adults. Engine. Although more than a little basic in its design, the Yamaha WR125X's single is liquid-cooled and more than gets on with the job in hand. As it is restricted in its performance, you can't expect too much from it, but a claimed 15 brake horsepower and 8.9 feet-lb of torque puts it in the right ballpark, and given a decent straight you can hit an indicated Yamaha WR125 top speed of 65 miles per hour. What's more important, however, is the fact even at this rate you should see around 90 miles per gallon. With SOHC maintenance is fairly basic, but on a 125 even basic maintenance is often skipped, and that's where you need to be wary. Reliability and build quality. So much of a 125's build quality and reliability depends on the mechanical sympathy of the previous owner, but it seems the WR can shrug off a lot of abuse. As on most budget 125s, the exhaust rots through, check it for leaks, but as replacement systems are just 200 pounds, this isn't a huge drama, unless the studs are rusted solid, and the frame and wiring are quite robust. Major engine issues are few and far between, however the big issue is crash damage, which can manifest itself as anything from bent bars and forks twisted in the yokes to scratched plastics and a damaged radiator. Always have a good inspection of the bike to see if it has suffered. Value versus rivals. Even for a newer rider, insuring a Yamaha WR125X isn't a huge drama, as its age makes it affordable. Economy figures in the 90 miles per gallon range and annual servicing costs of less than £150 make it a very cheap bike to run, and there are loads of aftermarket parts available online to help cut running costs should anything fail. If you are prepared to do a bit of basic home DIY, oil and filters, the WR125X is a cheap bike to run. Although not necessarily that cheap to buy. Prices vary from about £1,300 for a tatty bike to £4,000 for a late model, which is quite a lot for a 125. Although that said, they do hold their value and are popular buys, so as long as any major new rider tumbles are avoided, selling it again for a minimal loss is quite likely. Its main competition comes from the Aprilia SX125 and the SWMSM125R. Equipment. The WR is pretty basic, but the fact it is water-cooled and fuel-injected is good, and also, the LCD dash having a fuel gauge as standard is excellent. The X comes with spoke wheels, which is cool, and even a toolkit, which by now will probably be missing, so invest in a proper C-spanner to adjust the shock rather than attack it with a hammer and drift.